The subject is the heart. Last year we traveled about 240 days out of the year. And as you imagine, those of you who travel a lot, you really have to watch your health, because otherwise it can really go south. If you just eat anything you want to at any time, and it just doesn't really work. And so chocolate is that same nature. So I didn't know what to do. My husband just said, leave it. We just came from Antwerp. I said, no, I can't leave the chocolate. I have to take it. And I said, well, just give it to everybody and either help you with your addiction or just have a little remembrance. So it's to share. And it's a humble plate, but it's also a way that wherever I go, I try to have cookies or something, because it gets me to meet you then. Because you have to come up here and get it. We don't pass it out. And I put it right here. And then I just get to meet you. And it's not just another person in another country sitting on a mat. So an act of love. Today is all about that. And I want to tell you about one thing that I feel is important. Something for you to contemplate on and do research on if you don't believe it. But we do have an alive, living brain in our hearts. It's a 40,000 cell brain that has been scientifically and medically proven by an institute called HeartMath that's in California, that's outside of Stanford University, which is a very prestigious university. The first thing that happens in the human body is the heart, not the brain. So where does the heart come from? Just out of nowhere? Cells divided, heart came. And out of the heart, now this is what's a mind blower, out of the heart, your heart, my heart, everyone's heart, comes the rest of the body. Not the brain. Not up here, but here. So therefore, if we come from the heart, then we must be heart. So this 40,000 cell brain in your heart can be located in your meditation. If you're a deep meditator and you meditate on the longing of where it is, because it doesn't encompass the whole heart, it will be shown to you and you'll have an experience, and then you can always relate back to that place for your source of truth, energy, and true intelligence. Now the beauty of this heart, it doesn't have two hemispheres. Our brain up here has two hemispheres, left and right, male and female. So it always has an opinion. It always has the positive and the negative. Negative is met with positive, positive with negative. You always have opinions. You always have judgments. You always have prejudices. We all do. Discrimination. Because that's the ability of these two sides of your brain. But the heart brain doesn't have two sides. It doesn't have the ability to judge or to discriminate. It doesn't have the ability to gossip, have opinions. It doesn't have the ability to fight. It's amazing. And we've all got this in us. It's not a metaphor. It's not something nice to talk about. It's not a greeting card. Listen from your heart. Feel from your heart. Speak from your heart. Love from your heart. It's really real. Have you ever heard anyone say love from your mind? Feel from your mind? No, because the mind can't do that. The mind is very linear, and it's needed. Don't think you can walk around with this melon on top of your head with nothing in it. You need it, but it's not you. It's as if I'd say, Is this finger totally me? No. It's an aspect. Same as your mind. But we have celebrated and honored this thing up here for about 13,000 years now, thinking that that is us, and it's not. And then you walk into a yoga class, you walk and read ancient scriptures, and you know, and you hear the truth inside yourself, that you're not your mind. You study Buddhism, anything, all the way from Christianity to Judaism, and you find you're not your mind. But we live in a culture now that is run by our minds. When they nailed Jesus to the cross, and he said, and we can imagine, I've done many meditations where I have imagined what it would like to feel hanging on a cross. I can't even imagine it. I can't even imagine having uttered any words except just screaming and screaming in total agony, and yet he did not, and yet he said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now that is not an intellectual fact. He said it from his heartbreak. I mean, that's the ultimate, really. But we are all that, and you are all that. We are yogis. We are the ones that reincarnated back to help this world to remember we're based on love. And I know it sounds corny to some of you, but I don't know how to make it in an intellectual way, because love is not intellectual. I was a flower child back in the 60s in San Francisco, Haight-Ashbury. We lived to love. We wore flowers in our hair. We sang songs of love. We danced in love. But we had no tools underneath what we thought was that love was so much anger. We were so angry at our parents. We were so angry of anything that wasn't love, because we didn't know. We were dreamers. We were longers. And then yoga came along, then meditation came along, then Buddhist practices came along, and then we found the tools to take this displaced anger and to shift it to love that was sustainable, to fourth chakra that could stay and maintain itself, even if people blasted you, even if people gossiped about you, even if people betrayed you. That you could keep an equanimity in the heart and say, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. Because the heart and the human are together. And we are based on the heart brain, which is love. Anything away from that, we're being ruled by something else, and that's our mind. So it's a choice. You can either believe me or not. You can ask yourself how happy you are, and if you maybe want to try this thing called love. It takes work, though, because we've been so conditioned to use our minds as the predominant force that takes us through life. And then you enter yoga. And you come to know your breath, and you come to know the possibility of happiness. But the breath has nothing to do with the mind either. The breath has the ability to carry you to the fourth chakra, open up your throat so you have the power to speak the truth, the sixth sense so you can know the truth, and the crown so you can be the truth. It's a pretty simple order, but it takes self-discipline. It takes a longing. It takes such a longing. You fall, you get back up. You fall, you get back up. And that's called the spiritual path. But after you've had the experience, you can't go back. You can try it to your old ways. Maybe 2 steps forwards, 1 step back for years. And then little by little, you have more subtle experiences and you move closer to the heart. That's how it is. It's called the spiritual path. Doesn't matter who you follow, what you follow, it all goes to the same place. And we'll all know it when we take our last breath. And maybe some of us will know it before we take our last breath. In other words, that enlightened state can come anytime. So, with all that said, let us begin. Come sitting up.